The morning sky above Denver turned from clear blue to an angry purple as the massive Zilarian warship pushed through Earth's atmosphere. No warning, no communication, just the sudden appearance of a vessel nearly 2 miles long, hovering like a metal mountain over the frightened city. Jack Wilson yawned and poured his morning coffee, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding across the globe. His small cabin nestled in the Montana wilderness had spotty internet at best, and he had long ago given up on owning a television. As a physics professor on summer break, his only plans involved finishing his research paper on quantum field theory. The sudden buzz of his rarely used phone startled him. Unknown number. Hello? Professor Wilson? The voice sounded tense, official. This is General Frank Howard of the United States Air Force. Are you watching the news? Jack frowned. No. What's happening? Aliens, Professor. Real aliens. And they're asking for you by name. Jack nearly dropped his mug. That's not funny. I assure you this is not a joke. A military transport will arrive at your location in 20 minutes. Pack nothing, tell no one. The line went dead before Jack could respond. He stood frozen, coffee cooling in his hand, trying to make sense of the call. This had to be a prank. Some student with too much time on their hands. The distant thump of helicopter blades proved otherwise. 3 hours later, Jack sat in an underground bunker watching recordings of the alien transmission that had been broadcast worldwide. The creatures called themselves Zilarians. They stood at least 9 feet tall with bodies covered in what looked like blue-green armor that shifted colors like oil on water. Their faces had no nose, just breathing slits, and 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. We will speak. Only with Jack Wilson of Earth, the lead alien had stated in perfect English. Deliver him to us within 6 Earth rotations, or we will demonstrate our displeasure. To emphasize the point, the Zilarians had disabled every military satellite in orbit with a single energy pulse. The message was clear. Earth had no defense against their technology. Why me? Jack asked the room full of generals, scientists, and government officials. I'm nobody important. Dr. Linda Mason, the lead xenobiologist assembled for this crisis, shook her head. We were hoping you might have some insight. Have you ever had contact with anything unusual? Any missing time? Strange dreams? Jack ran a hand through his brown hair, now damp with nervous sweat. No, nothing like that. President Harris stepped forward. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Professor Wilson, I cannot order you to meet with these beings, but I must impress upon you the gravity of our situation. Jack nodded slowly. I understand. I'll go. The meeting point was a remote airfield in Nevada, far from any population center. Jack stood alone on the tarmac, wearing a simple button-up shirt and khaki pants. The officials had debated giving him a wire or weapon, but ultimately decided against it. The aliens would surely detect any technology. A single drop of sweat rolled down his spine as the desert air vibrated with energy. Above him, the clouds parted as a shuttle descended from the mothership, sleek and metallic with no visible engines or windows. It touched down without a sound, impossibly gentle for its massive size. A seam appeared in the smooth hull, widening into a doorway. Light spilled out, silhouetting the massive figures that emerged. The lead Zilarian wore decorative armor that shimmered with more colors than the others. Jack guessed this indicated rank. Behind this leader came 6 guards carrying staff-like weapons that hummed with energy. I am Commander Vrax, the leader announced, voice deep and resonating strangely in the dry air. Supreme Commander of the Zilarian Expansion Fleet. Jack swallowed hard, but managed to keep his voice steady. Jack Wilson, I teach physics at Bridger College. Vrax approached, towering over Jack. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern as it circled him slowly, examining him from all angles. Jack felt like a specimen under a microscope. So the legends were true, Vrax hissed, continuing to circle. A Terran who carries the ancient bloodline. Jack kept his face neutral despite his confusion. I don't know what you're talking about. Vrax stopped directly in front of him. Your species is young, primitive, yet somehow you carry the genetic signature we have hunted across 12 star systems. Something stirred inside Jack, a strange warmth spreading through his chest. The closer Vrax got, the stronger the sensation became. It wasn't fear. It felt more like recognition. "What do you want from me?" Jack asked. Vrax's upper eyes narrowed, "To confirm what our scans detected, and then to eliminate the threat you represent." For a moment, Jack's vision blurred. In that split second, he saw, or thought he saw, strange symbols dancing across the Zalarian's armor. Somehow, impossibly, he almost understood them. "You will come with us," Vrax commanded. "Your planet's fate depends on your cooperation." From 5 miles away, through high-powered lenses, world leaders and military commanders watched as Jack Wilson willingly boarded the alien shuttle. Some called him a hero, others, a fool. None of them understood that as Jack stepped into that vessel, something ancient was awakening inside him, something that had been dormant in his bloodline for thousands of years. The shuttle doors sealed, shut, and with a whisper of displaced air it rose back toward the massive ship hanging in Earth's sky like a sword of Damocles. Jack Wilson had just become humanity's most unlikely ambassador, and possibly, though he didn't know it yet, its greatest hope for survival. The shuttle journey lasted only minutes, but to Jack it felt like hours. The inside of the alien craft was surprisingly warm, with walls that seemed to pulse with faint blue light. Jack sat alone on a bench-like structure that molded itself to his body. Despite his fear, scientific curiosity kept his mind working. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. When the doors opened, Jack found himself in an enormous hangar bay filled with smaller craft and alien machinery he couldn't begin to understand. The ceiling arched hundreds of feet overhead, glittering with strange symbols. "Move," ordered one of the guards, prodding Jack with the end of his staff. They led him through winding corridors where the walls seemed almost alive, shifting colors as they passed. Other Zalarians stopped to stare at the human in their midst. Some made clicking sounds Jack assumed were comments or perhaps laughter. Finally, they reached what appeared to be a holding cell. Unlike Earth prisons, there were no bars or visible locks. Just a shimmering field of energy across the entrance. "Wait here," the guard said, pushing Jack inside. The energy field solidified behind him, turning opaque. Alone at last, Jack sank onto the single piece of furniture, another of those body-conforming benches. His mind raced. Why him? What could these advanced beings possibly want with a physics professor from Montana? Hours passed. Jack tried to sleep but couldn't. His stomach growled with hunger. Just as he wondered if they planned to starve him, the energy field cleared and a smaller Zalarian entered carrying what looked like a tray. "Food and water," the alien said, placing the tray on the floor. This Zalarian was different, only about 7 feet tall with lighter coloring. The voice sounded less harsh, almost gentle. "Thank you," Jack said. "May I ask your name?" The alien hesitated. "I am called Krell. I am a knowledge keeper." Krell tilted his head. "You are very calm for a being about to learn of his planet's destruction." Jack nearly choked on the water-like liquid he'd been cautiously sipping. "What?" Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "You do not know?" "Curious. Commander Vrax has already informed your world leaders of our purpose here." "Which is what exactly?" Jack asked, setting down the strange cup. "Earth harbors a substance we call zenithium in its core. It is essential for our empire's survival. Our primary energy source is nearly depleted." Krell's voice dropped lower. "The extraction process will unfortunately destroy your planet." Jack felt his blood run cold. "How many will die?" "As a courtesy, we have offered to evacuate a small percentage of humans, approximately 10 million. They will serve in our labor colonies. Your leaders have 72 hours to compile their lists." Krell's eyes studied Jack curiously. "They are not taking the news well. There are reports of widespread panic." Jack stood up, anger replacing fear. You can't just destroy an entire planet of nearly 8 billion people. It has been done before, Krell said simply. Many times. Jack paced the small cell. There must be alternatives. If you need this, Zenithium, maybe we could help you mine it safely. Impossible. The extraction requires breaking through to your planet's core. Krell moved closer, lowering his voice further. But that is not why I am here. I came to see you, the human who carries Lumina blood. Jack stopped pacing. What does that mean? Commander Vrax mentioned something about a bloodline. Krell glanced nervously at the energy field. I should not speak of this. The Lumina are forbidden knowledge. The alien seemed to wrestle with some internal debate before continuing. But I am a knowledge keeper. Truth is my duty. Krell moved closer. Long ago, before the Zellarian Empire spread across the stars, we encountered a race called the Lumina. Unlike any species we had seen, they possessed abilities that defied our science. They could manipulate energy with their minds, create shields no weapon could penetrate. Jack listened, fascinated despite the dire circumstances. The Lumina opposed our expansion, Krell continued. They protected weaker species, prevented us from harvesting resources as we pleased. A great war followed. We thought we had exterminated them all, but some apparently escaped. Your genetic markers match theirs, diluted, but present. That's impossible, Jack said. I'm just a normal human. Your ancestors fled here, diluted their bloodline with humans, and hid, Creel explained. Commander Vrax wants to execute you personally, the last known carrier of Lumina genes. A loud alarm suddenly blared. Krell jumped back. I have stayed too long. They will wonder. The alien hurried toward the exit, then paused. Prepare yourself, Jack Wilson. The commander plans to make an example of you before your planet's leaders. After Krell left, Jack sat in stunned silence. Earth was doomed. Billions would die. And somehow, impossibly, he carried the genes of an ancient alien race. Sleep finally claimed him, filled with strange dreams of blue light and distant stars. Jack awoke to rough hands dragging him from the bench. 2 guards pulled him to his feet and marched him out of the cell. His joints ached from the uncomfortable sleep and his mouth felt dry. They brought him to an enormous chamber where view screens showed Earth floating in space, beautiful and fragile. Commander Vrax stood on a raised platform, surrounded by other high-ranking Zellarians. The human awakens, Vrax announced as Jack was forced to his knees. Just in time to witness history. On the screens, smaller Zellarian ships descended toward Earth's major cities. One view screen showed the United Nations building, where world leaders had gathered in emergency session. Your leaders squabble over who deserves to live, Vrax said with what sounded like amusement. They fight over scraps while we prepare to feast. Jack struggled to his feet only to be shoved down again. You don't have to do this. There must be other planets, other sources of what you need. None so rich, none so convenient, Vrax replied. And none harboring the last trace of our ancient enemy. The commander descended from the platform, drawing a sleek device from his armor. It looked like a short rod made of dark metal. Your kind defied us once, Vrax said, pointing the device at Jack's chest. The Lumina believed themselves superior, protectors of the galaxy. They failed. And now, with your death, their legacy truly ends. The rod began to glow with purple energy. The other Zellarians moved back, clearing space around Jack. You'll die instantly, human, Vrax announced with cruel satisfaction. Jack felt something stirring inside him, that same warmth from before, but stronger now. Knowledge he shouldn't possess filled his mind. The purple energy in Vrax's weapon would indeed kill him, unless he embraced what he truly was. With nothing left to lose, Jack just smiled and stepped forward. As Jack stepped toward the weapon, time seemed to slow down. The purple energy gathering at the tip of Vrax's rod intensified, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Jack felt no fear, only a strange certainty, as if he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life without knowing it. The first bolt of energy shot from the weapon straight toward Jack's heart. The Zilarians watched, expecting to see the human crumple lifeless to the ground. Instead, the bolt stopped an inch from Jack's chest. Hovering there, the deadly energy sizzled and sparked against an invisible barrier. Jack looked down at it with mild surprise. Impossible! Vrax shrieked, firing again and again. Each bolt joined the first, creating a small storm of purple energy that hung suspended before Jack. Then Jack's skin began to change. It started as a faint glow, like moonlight reflecting off water. The glow intensified, spreading across his body until he was bathed in soft blue light. The suspended energy bolt slowly changed color, purple turning to blue before being absorbed into Jack's glowing form. The genetic dormancy cannot be broken without the activation sequence. Vrax backed away, dropping the weapon. This defies all our research. Jack looked at his hands, marveling at the light pulsing beneath his skin. With each heartbeat, the glow strengthened. Knowledge flooded his mind. Not as thoughts, but as certainties, like remembering things he'd always known but somehow forgotten. What's happening to me? Jack asked, his voice echoing strangely as if two people spoke at once. Krail stepped forward from the group of observers, ignoring the hissing warnings of the other Zilarians. Your Lumina heritage has awakened. Our presence, our energy weapons, they triggered what has been sleeping in your cells for generations. Vrax turned on Krell with fury. Knowledge Keeper, you overstep. He deserves to know what he is. Krell replied, showing surprising courage. Before you kill him. But Jack was beginning to understand on his own. Images flashed through his mind. Tall beings of light facing down Zilarian warships, hands raised to create shields of pure energy. He saw beautiful cities on distant worlds, civilizations flourishing under Lumina protection. And he saw the war, the terrible war that had nearly wiped out his ancestors. The Lumina weren't just your enemies, Jack said slowly, piecing together the memories that weren't quite his own. They were guardians. They protected developing species throughout the galaxy. They were meddlers, Vrax spat. They denied us our rightful conquests, prevented the expansion of our empire. The commander signaled to his guards, who raised their staff weapons and surrounded Jack. Kill him, maximum power! 20 energy weapons fired simultaneously. Jack raised his hand instinctively, and a dome of blue light expanded outward from his body. The energy bolts dissolved harmlessly against it. The guards fired again and again, but nothing penetrated the shield. With each attack, Jack felt stronger, as if the weapons were feeding him rather than harming him. You're making him stronger, Krell warned. Lumina can absorb and redirect energy. It's their primary ability. Vrax silenced Krell with a backhand strike that sent the smaller alien sprawling. Enough! Activate the containment field. The floor beneath Jack illuminated with strange symbols. A cylinder of harsh red light shot up around him, cutting off his shield. Jack felt sudden pressure as if gravity had intensified. He dropped to one knee, struggling to breathe. This field was designed to hold Lumina prisoners during the war, Vrax said, approaching the edge of the red light. It disrupts your ability to manipulate energy. Now you will watch as we begin the destruction of your planet. On the view screens, the Zilarian ships positioned around Earth began to glow with the same purple energy from Vrax's weapon. Jack struggled against the crushing force of the containment field, desperate to stop what was about to happen. I don't want to fight, Jack gasped out, but I won't let you destroy my home. Something inside Jack shifted, a final barrier breaking down. In that moment, he wasn't just accessing the abilities of his Lumina ancestors. He was embracing their purpose, their reason for existence. Protectors, guardians, shepherds of developing worlds. With a cry that was both pain and liberation, Jack pushed outward with his mind. The red containment field shattered like glass. The backlash knocked most of the Zilarians off their feet. Before they could recover, Jack extended his hand toward Vrax. The commander froze in mid-motion, suspended by tendrils of blue energy. The alien's 4 eyes widened in terror. Listen to me, Jack said, his voice steady. I'm leaving this ship, and you're going to give me time to find a better solution for both our species. You have no authority, Vrax began, But Jack tightened the energy field slightly, cutting off the alien's words. "I'm not asking permission," Jack said. He turned to Krell, who was watching with a mixture of fear and wonder. "You said you're a knowledge keeper. That means you value truth above empire. Help me find a way to save both our peoples." Krell hesitated, then nodded. "The library section contains all our historical and scientific records. We can find answers there, if we survive that long." Jack released Vrax, who immediately called for reinforcements. Alarms blared throughout the ship. "Lead the way," Jack told Krell. "I'll handle anyone who tries to stop us." As they raced through the corridors, Jack used his newly discovered abilities to disable Zolarian guards and security systems. He created energy barriers to block passages behind them and short-circuited door controls with a touch of his glowing hand. In the library, an enormous room with floating data crystals, Krell quickly accessed the main system. "Here's the data on Zenithium extraction. And here, information on Lumina energy manipulation." Jack absorbed the information rapidly, his mind processing data at unprecedented speed. "There it is," he said finally. "The answer we need." But before he could explain, the entire ship shuddered. Vrax's voice echoed through the communication system. "Extraction begins now. Earth dies today." Jack grabbed Krell's arm. "We need to get to Earth. Now." Using his new abilities to navigate the ship's systems, Jack located the shuttle bay. As they ran, he formulated a plan, a desperate one, but possibly Earth's only hope. Not just to survive the Zolarians, but maybe to give humanity its place among the stars. Jack Nelson was bored out of his mind. 6 weeks alone in deep space with nothing but the hum of engines and the occasional beep from the autopilot. The cargo ship Stardust wasn't much to look at, just an old transport hauling mining supplies to the outer colonies. Jack ran his hand through his messy brown hair and sighed. At 32, he had spent most of his adult life in the black emptiness between stars, and it was starting to wear on him. He was halfway through his cold dinner when the alarm blared. Jack jumped, spilling his coffee across the metal table. "Warning. Unknown signal detected," the ship's computer announced in its flat, emotionless voice. Jack rushed to the control panel. The signal was coming through on an emergency frequency that hadn't been used in decades. His training said to report it and continue his route. Company policy was clear. No deviations, no exceptions. "Play the signal," Jack ordered, ignoring the rulebook. A burst of static filled the small cockpit, followed by what sounded like words in no language he had ever heard. Jack's heart raced. This was no human transmission. He punched in new coordinates, feeling more alive than he had in years. "Computer, calculate course to signal origin." "Warning. Course deviation violates Earth Cargo Authority protocols," the computer reminded him. "Override. Authorization, Nelson 7 Delta." The stars shifted as the Stardust changed direction. 6 hours. Later, Jack spotted it. A sleek silver vessel that seemed to glow against the blackness of space. Its design was unlike any ship he had ever seen, with smooth curves and no visible engines. It drifted silently, its lights flickering weakly. Jack wiped sweaty palms on his uniform and opened a channel. "This is Jack Nelson of Earth cargo ship Stardust. Do you need help?" His voice cracked slightly with nervousness. For a long minute, there was nothing. Then, to his shock, a voice replied in perfect English. "Human vessel, we welcome your assistance. Our systems are damaged. May we dock with your ship?" Jack's mouth went dry. First contact. And he, Jack Nelson, nobody special, just a cargo pilot with too many lonely nights under his belt, would be the one to make history. "Yes." "Follow my docking procedures," he stammered, sending the necessary data. As the ships connected, Jack grabbed the stunner from under his console, just in case. He stood nervously by the airlock, weapon hidden behind his back, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The door hissed open with a burst of sweet-smelling air. Jack nearly dropped his stunner at what he saw. 2 figures stood in the doorway. They were clearly female, but not human. Both towered over Jack's 6-foot frame by at least a foot. Their skin glowed with an inner light, shifting between soft purple and blue like the northern lights back on Earth. Their faces were almost human, but with high cheekbones and large almond-shaped eyes that shone like liquid silver, with no pupils or whites. Long, flowing hair that seemed to move even without wind framed their faces, one with hair like spun silver, the other with darker, almost blue-black locks. "I am Lyra," said the taller one with silver hair and intricate patterns etched across her temples. Her voice was musical, with a strange accent. "This is my sister, Vela." She gestured to the second alien, who had similar but simpler markings and slightly darker skin. Vela bowed her head slightly. "We are grateful for your bravery, Jack Nelson of Earth." Jack realized he was staring with his mouth open. He quickly shut it. "How do you know my name? And how are you speaking English?" Lyra smiled, revealing teeth that were just a bit too white, too perfect. "We have been studying your broadcasts for some time. Your language was not difficult to learn." Jack's hand tightened on the stunner, then relaxed. If they had wanted to hurt him, they could have done so already. He slipped the weapon into his pocket. "Come in. I don't have much, but you're welcome to it." As they walked through the narrow corridors of his ship, Jack couldn't help noticing how they moved. Like water flowing, every step graceful and perfectly balanced. They seemed to glide, rather than walk. In the small mess hall, the sisters sat across from him, their height making the chairs look like children's furniture. Up close, Jack noticed faint patterns across their skin, like circuits or writing that glowed slightly. "What happened to your ship?" Jack asked, pushing a cup of coffee toward each of them. Lyra picked up the cup carefully with long, slender fingers. "Our drive system experienced a failure we did not anticipate. We were on our way to your planet." "To Earth? Why?" Vela leaned forward, her silver eyes seeming to look right through him. "We are diplomats of the Celestial Concordance, a union of 27 star systems. Your world has reached a level of development that warrants official contact." Jack nearly choked on his coffee. "Official contact, like ambassadors?" "Yes," Lyra nodded. "We were to meet with your world leaders. Instead, fate has brought us to you, alone, far from Earth." Jack felt suddenly self-conscious in his stained uniform. He was no diplomat. He was just a cargo pilot who sometimes broke the rules when boredom got the better of him. "Can I help fix your ship?" he offered, desperate to say something. The sisters exchanged a look that seemed to communicate volumes without words. "Perhaps," Vela said, her voice softer than her sister's. "But there is no rush." "No rush? Don't you need to get to Earth?" Lyra set down her untouched coffee. "The official delegation can wait. This unexpected meeting is valuable to us." "Why?" Jack asked, feeling suddenly warm under their intense gaze. "Because," Vela said, leaning even closer, "you are the first human we have ever met in person, and we find you fascinating." Jack swallowed hard as both sisters stared at him with those strange silver eyes. He had a feeling his life had just changed forever, and he wasn't sure if he should be excited or terrified, maybe both. The final confrontation began at dawn. 50 humans with glowing blue auras gathered at strategic points around the world, targeting the Zalarian extraction equipment. Jack, Lisa, and Alan led the main force to the Sahara Desert, where the primary control hub had been established. From a distance, they observed the massive alien structure, a towering spire of metal and energy that pulsed with purple light. Hundreds of Zalarian troops guarded it, supported by hovering war machines that hummed with deadly power. "They outnumber us 20 to 1, Lisa said, looking through binoculars. "Numbers won't matter," Jack replied. "Once we're close enough, their technology will fail." The humans moved forward across the desert sand. When the Zalarians spotted them, they responded with predictable arrogance. A small squad was dispatched to eliminate what they saw as a minor annoyance. The aliens fired their energy weapons and watched in shock as the beams dissipated harmlessly against the humans' blue auras. The Zalarians called for reinforcements, their confidence shaken. "Now," Jack called. The humans charged forward. As they came within range, the Zalarian weapons and machines began to fail. The aliens, so dependent on their technological superiority, found themselves suddenly vulnerable. Alan touched the ground, sending a surge of blue energy racing toward the extraction spire. The structure's purple glow flickered and dimmed. Commander Vrax emerged from the control center, rage contorting his alien features. "Impossible. You are primitive beings. You cannot defeat the Zalarian Empire." Jack stepped forward to face him. "We're not just humans anymore. We're the guardians this galaxy has needed for too long." Around the world, similar scenes played out. Awakened humans disabled extraction sites while conventional military forces engaged the confused Zalarians. For the first time in centuries, the aliens faced an enemy their weapons couldn't harm. In the Sahara, Vrax drew a ceremonial blade, an ancient weapon from before Zalarians relied so heavily on technology. "Your species is primitive," Vrax snarled as he attacked Jack. "You do not deserve this world." Jack blocked the blow with a shield of pure energy. "That's where you're wrong," he replied. "Our apparent weakness, our diversity, our mixed heritage, created something new, something stronger." The duel between them shook the very ground. Jack channeled not just his own power, but the collective energy of humanity's will to survive. With a final surge of power, he sent Vrax flying backward, defeated. The Zalarian commander lay broken but alive. "Finish me," he gasped. Jack shook his head. "That's not what the Lumina do. That's not what humans do at our best." With their leader defeated and their technology neutralized, the remaining Zalarians had no choice but to retreat. Earth had won its first interstellar war. In the aftermath, humanity faced a new reality. The presence of Lumina heritage among the population created new possibilities for advancement. Jack established an academy to train those with awakened abilities, knowing the Zalarians might someday return. As he looked out over the new recruits with their faintly glowing skin, Jack remembered the moment that changed everything, when an alien commander pointed a weapon at his chest and declared, "With absolute certainty, you'll die instantly, human." And he had just smiled and stepped forward.